used it out of general fund. So we have a window, you know, we have some padding right now. As long as the budget's that tight.
I'm not saying, I mean, our anticipation is that we would keep on that process right now. But I think when we go back to some of the original proposals and submittals, it's to keep in mind that we can't spend everything that we take in. So we have to set some aside. If we get to the point where we can't, we're gonna be faced with the same concept. We're gonna be faced with, we gotta cut some areas of spending somewhere and reductions could be possible. So it's, again, why we reduce back the budget in fire to our perspective of what we're dealing with. You know, obviously, some of those reductions have to come out of the concept of, in order to maintain personnel, you've gotta come out of negotiations, you gotta come.
Since every time there's a place, there's money, and it's a bond.
Well, we're dealing with, you know, we deal with $40 million budget, and we're putting away $100,000. We aren't even putting away $100,000 a year. You know, when trying to pay back the deficit elimination plan.
I'm not saying that I'm not opposed to some money going in, but I'm saying it seems like when there's a window there of something we haven't had in the past and it's brought to us, it's there, and then there's some reason.
We are. What I'm saying is we're being cautious to make sure that if those funds run dry, that we're not left having to lay people off because we no longer can use that pot of money because there's no money in that pot. So, and what is the department is going to have any funds left for equipment and personnel? So,
And then can I use their state forfeiture for that? I thought that's what we use it for.
Absolutely.
The federal forfeiture funds too have been building them for years because we never expensed it all. So, you know, the overtime takes a real big bite into it.
Oh,
so you
no,
figure all these years it was building up, and then you take a, you know.
Right, and I would not have no intention of doing that for any long term. I'm just saying right now, hopefully this is our last crucial year, hopefully. I mean, no one can guarantee, but it looks like, I'm not saying it'll go, but maybe it'll creep a little bit for all the communities that, it's what they're guesstimating anyway. And I'm not saying take everything, but I'm just saying if we need to use it right now, that was an important thing, and then also it was important that the state allowed you guys to utilize your state forfeiture for other things that you needed. And of course, we don't want any laid off, but we want to maintain what we have. But I thought we weren't going to have that much overtime this year. The way we have it set up with the 12-hour shifts and the new people, and we're hiring more. I mean, I was just thinking it wasn't going to be as crucial.
You know, the new people are coming off of their training period, so they're kind of staffing up. So that's going to help us out.
I'm saying that's what
some of the overtime's reimbursable, that, you know, the McKinley details.
And more than likely to go back to 8-hour shifts.
Oh, they are?
Very possible.
I thought that was a cost saver. I thought that was the deal breaker. People,
The
numbers and everything were gonna be 12 hours and.
union wants to go back that way, probably so they can work the extra overtime shift.
But then we're spending more overtime. Now, is that the traffic detail you're talking about, or just shifts?
If we permit that to continue, we had to add the shifts now, so.
So do we have enough? I thought we only had enough to do 12 hours, and I think I'm lost. I thought, maybe I don't understand.
Well, it's gonna put, I think it puts a strain on staffing, too.
Because I thought.
It puts a strain on some of the things that.
So that we could function more properly, more efficiently, more cost savings, and so the guys could, you know, we could have more guys on.
We're not going back to 8 hours based on our decision.
Okay, so so will that change all the financial if this happens in that department?
No, because the new hires are all, their salary based on whether they work 8, 10, 12, doesn't matter.
I know that, but we'll need 3 shifts
Right.
instead of 2 shifts. We're gonna need more people.
They're not gonna get more people,
no.
or more than what we're trying to bring in at this point.
Can I ask a question, on page 10, this is the federal forfeiture. The fund balance right now, is that, I mean, is this, it's proposed, is 333,000, right?
That's the treasury. So there's 2 forfeiture there, see justice underneath it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you add those 2 together? No? No?
If you want.
But I mean, do we pay out of that for overtime for, no?
No, right now,
Down there,
the treasury
where it
is
says-
used for capital outlay purposes at this point.
Okay.
Second category where it says police overtime expenditures. That's what
Okay,
it is.
so that's just the, so there's only 37,000 in that right now? Or that's a projection?
At the end of the fiscal year, assuming no revenues come in next year and we spend $900,000.
Okay, and we had 2 million, and so like what Chief is saying, you know, that was, we had a lot, but then when you start taking out of it, we
Remember,
went
we
before.
can't project revenue.
Right,
So what you see for revenue coming in, last year was actual, so the
Right.
528 was actual.
mhm,
The 210 is earnings to date that we know we have, is that correct? So it's not even a projection of what we might get between now and the end of the fiscal year or anything of that.
okay.
Or what might be looming out there, there probably was a couple stops, I think, that we haven't actually gotten something back from the, right, our share of it to deal with. So we can't, that's why there's no number there, and that was, you know, we dealt with that last year.
Okay.
We can't project revenue.
I have a
Right.
question.
Go ahead.
Okay, so how do you not project revenue in a budget?
I just asked that question.
I don't get it. Can you explain?
It's a lot.
They don't permit you to do that.
Okay, so it's all a projection, the whole thing.
They don't permit you to project how much you might make from
So you have to use your actual
Correct.
numbers across the board and
Because
you
you're like,
get it?
then there's a,
Past
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, and then for the next year, you're
like-
just assume you're gonna get
it's like a
nothing, and then
chicken.
if you get something, bonus.
In other words, you have to earn it and have it before they allow you to budget it and spend it. Remember the unusual nature of the item, it's not, you know, it's,
I see.
I mean, all crime may stop.
I knew I was missing
So
something.
we
I didn't know what it was.
can
I'm like,
we can get away with in our budget showing the $800,000 of expense because we still have $900,000 of fund balance showing.
okay.
So if we were, and that's probably why the number's 800 and not a million, of course, $1,250,000. So it doesn't mean that we won't have to adjust that during the course of the year after we get our actual numbers in
Okay.
to recognize the additional revenue.
When's the last year-to-date been updated? I mean, is it recent?
I would say March, the end of March.
So first quarter?
These
Oh,
would
for
have
the
been
current year, yeah, it would be
late March.
March, you want that.
Didn't we just get that report?
Yeah, but that, you wouldn't constantly be updating these numbers, then that'd be worse than it already is in terms of, you know, trying to catch up.
Hey, just a quick question on the LDFA, assuming we're able to access that money. Just noticing here on page 9, the local rebate to taxing entities, that would be Taylor,
Part
That'd
of the
be-
local.
and the 190 would be like to the
County and
county
schools.
and the rest of it, so if we did that, we'd have $35,000 balance.
Right.
Can you go over with us, I see, I'm trying to look at the summaries here and what the administration, presents in the budget. And the summary for the compensated absences. I know we talked about this a little bit before, but I noticed the note says maybe more accurate reflection of if 9 or less have big years. You increased your compensated absence line.
Right. Well, we decreased our line, we had a 770, I think it was, originally in there, and we should have been around 6. I guess the anticipation would be around 6. 240, if you take the contract at $4,000 per employee, you got 60 guys that are eligible for that, 60 people, excuse me, that's 240. If you anticipate X percentage, and given that it's a 10-year cycle, basically, from year 10 to year 20, that they're building big years, you gotta get through 60 people, let's say it's 6. You know, in order to average that out for 10 years, that 6 people can do that, to do 40,000 per year, there's another 240. Well, we anticipate a little higher because there's only a few people between years 10 and 13 at this point in time. You know, most of them are still in between 13 and 20, so we anticipate, you know, we don't know that. We've been trying to communicate with the union and ask them, can you try to, you don't have to tell us who, just project how many people might be working on that year.
But in light of the vast amount of retirements, I mean, most of those guys took that final year last year. So why do you?
But it's not final year, they can do it.
Right, but that final year is one of the years.
Right.
I mean, that's one of the three.
Right.
So what is your, I guess, I'm trying to understand your basis for the projected increase to 9.
Because there's,
No, it's not increasing the money.
yeah, I mean, from 240 instead of 6. So if we were taking a 10-year period, and they were all 10-year guys, so we would average six a year for the next 10 years. But most of those guys are already past 10 years, and they're into 13, 13 to 20, let's say. So we're anticipating that there are more people because of the hiring and bunching, so there's more people than just 6 trying to get good years. And, command's in that batch too, so we don't know what.
So they take them, they redeem them so that their W-2 reflects that extra income
Well, they gotta do it
too.
three,
So
so
they
they get
can
twice
average-
within their career, and then their final cash out.
Right,
The
okay.
final cash out is not limited to 40, so it's whatever the final balance is at that point in time, so.
But the newest hires, I would suspect would probably not be selling their,
They don't get to, they get them cashed out at the end of
they
each
won't be, so
year.
you take that out of the 60.
Well, you take that out of the 68, so there's new hires or so, so there's still 60 eligible for.
And that's your 240.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a new.
So remember, the 4,000 is pretty much a lot.
That's contractual.
Right, I mean, so even if they're doing a big year, they'd still get that 4,000. So that's why we didn't subtract that out of the 9 people and say, well, you would take 9 people out of the 4,000, because they can still get that automatic, that payout at 4,000, and then in December, they could say, well, I also wanna cash in my banks because then do a big year. It's when they say, I would like to cash in some banks and get 6,000. So we actually had somebody accidentally, in their mind, they accidentally did that, and they came in and wrote a check and reimbursed it, because I don't want that to be, that $10,000 to be my big year. So they corrected the mistake, and they kind of done it in the process, so. I asked them why they took the check, and she held me to it.
How many people a year, draw out that, will draw out that 4,000?
All,
Probably everybody,
Most of them?
Most of them will draw out 4,000 a year.
yeah, but I think the number on the, if you look at the guys trying to get one of their 3 best years is reduced down to what, on average? 5 guys, 3 guys?
Yeah, you can.
I mean, so, and if you use some of the averages that we've seen, even if they cashed out at $40,000 times 5, that's an extra $200,000.
Right, it's not that much. That's why I said we could average, not say last year because of all the layoffs and stuff like that. I'm
Well, last
talking
year you had them on because a lot.
Right, but I'm talking about
Budget
if you took an
versus
average
actual
of 5 years prior to that,
Yeah.
to what they were.
Mhm.
I'm sure you wouldn't find it to be that extreme.
There's 450 in it currently, that's
Well,
fine.
John just said, if you took a 5-year window, not counting last year, but 5 years prior to that, to see how much was taken out every year, I would imagine it's
It's
not
just like
as
the,
large a figure.
it's,
Big estimate.
budget performance report. We called it something else.
But it would depend on how many people actually retire.
If you took 5 years, though,
Something that we
that would
Right.
still give you a very, very good idea